to bow our heads, ask a blessing over this evening, and then we'll be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Dear Heavenly Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this evening. Thank you for this wonderful author and this great hero of Bernardo de Gálvez. Thank you for these people that are here tonight. I ask you to bless this event, bless each person here in a special way, and bless the food and the reception, and let us have a wonderful evening of fellowship. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thank you. Anthony Starks, if you'll please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand, everyone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perfect. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you very much. Okay, I would like to once again tell you how happy that I am that you all could be here. You know, it is such a funny thing. People are curious about Bernardo de Gálvez and who is he and what did he do and did the Spanish really help with the American Revolution and what is this big mystery all about? And so, you know, there are so many scholars and people that are working on this, and of course we have sponsored 2 conferences here at Rice where we've invited a number of very well-known scholars on Bernardo de Gálvez and American history, and they've come and presented papers. We've also commissioned an opera about the life of Bernardo de Gálvez called Yo Solo. We had a wonderful opportunity to showcase that opera last October here at the Shepherd School of Music. But you know, one day I'm driving as usual, trying to get somewhere in a hurry, and the phone is ringing and ringing, and it's this journalist from Spain who's saying, "Hey, John, I need to talk to you. Everybody tells me I need to talk to you about this Bernardo de Gálvez, and who is he, and what is your group doing?" And I'm like, oh my God, another one, you know, what am I going to say? So like, okay, you're jumping on the bandwagon and you're going to write this book about Bernardo de Gálvez, and we're all excited. But actually, what he was doing was something tremendously unique and something that impressed me beyond all imagination. What he was doing was not asking, once again, was it only Lafayette? Was it only the French who gave so much help to Washington? And of course, at the insistence and begging of Benjamin Franklin, did the Spanish really get involved? No, he was saying something else. Actually, it wasn't until much later that I finally realized that what he was doing is that he was writing a phenomenal book about a grassroots movement of people like you and me right here in the United States who are doing everything we can to foster a strong relationship between ourselves and Spain by telling the true history of the American Revolution and by really getting the information out. And people here are taking the initiative to do so many wonderful things, like having events like this, going into elementary schools and high schools and explaining about this aspect of the American Revolution so that young Hispanic people like you and me can actually take pride in knowing that possibly our forefathers right here in the Gulf Coast of the United States were just as important participants in the American Revolution as Paul Revere and all those guys back in the 13 colonies, okay? So what he was doing was he was writing a book about people who are lobbying in Congress to get a portrait of Bernardo de Gálvez hung there, people who are laboring tirelessly to get the Congress to make Bernardo de Gálvez the 8th honorary citizen of the United States. I mean, these things are phenomenal. And it's people like you and me working hard to call Spain's help to the revolution and the legacy of Bernardo de Gálvez out of obscurity and to bring it into our public eye today. So all I can say is thank you to Francisco Reyero for noticing this and for having the idea to work with it. Thank you. So at this time, I need to acknowledge a few people and make a couple of things possible. First of all, I would very much like to welcome the not consul, maybe next, Concierge, Jose Luis Alonso from the Consulado Español here in Houston, to welcome you.
Muchas gracias, buenas noches. Es un honor para el Consulado General de España haber sido invitado a tu acto en apoyo de una labor tan importante como el libro del señor Reyero. Unas brevísimas palabras, porque estarán ustedes deseando escuchar al autor. Únicamente decirle la trascendencia de la obra realizada por Bernardo de Gálvez, una obra que trasciende a la historia, una obra que significa nada más y nada menos que el nacimiento de una gran nación como los Estados Unidos de América, y que yo creo que incluso el propio Washington reconocía que sin esta batalla ganada por Bernardo de Gálvez probablemente no se hubiese producido la independencia, porque no se hubiese ganado la independencia por Estados Unidos de América. Y otro dato importante de la acción militar llevada a cabo por Bernardo de Gálvez. Como ustedes saben, la Infantería de Marina Española es el antecedente de los cuerpos de marines de todo el mundo, creada en 1523. Pues bien, por Carlos I, pues bien, entre los hechos de armas que ha protagonizado este cuerpo glorioso del ejército español en todo el mundo, incluye la batalla de Pensacola dentro de esos 10 hechos de armas. Entonces, la trascendencia de la obra y de la vida de Bernardo de Gálvez está justificadísimo y es importantísima, y creo que merece ser conocido en el ámbito español y mundial. Y por otra parte, finalmente, el hecho de que si nuestro conde de Galvez tenía como divisa yo solo, hay que tener en cuenta también estas acciones individuales, como el autor de nuestro libro, que sirven para dar trascendencia y que sea reconocida la obra de personas como nosotros. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we appreciate the tremendous support always from the Consulate of Spain here in Houston. You all work so much side by side with us and open many doors for us, and we appreciate your effort. But you know, absolutely. And our educational efforts really would not be possible at all if it weren't for certain other very important partners to the Granaderos y Damas de Galvez. One of those, of course, is the Office of Multicultural, let's see, Community Relations, yes, all right, of Rice University. Thanks to them and their sponsorship, and not only that, but their very hard work, tireless effort, they get calls from me asking, please, hey, can we come and have another conference? Can you get a room for us? Can we come to the Shepherd School and sing some songs? And it's none other than David Medina and Jan West here at Rice University to make this conference. We appreciate your help and your support to us all the time. You all are the best. In addition, there may be a representative here, Luis Duno, from the Department of Spanish, Portuguese, and Latin American Studies. But if anyone is here from this department, let me know. We welcome you for sure. In addition, though he's not here tonight, Jesus Chico, who also works with the Consulado, with the Spain Resource Center here at Rice, is very supportive to our efforts. Also, Carmen Gerarda and Ana Frade from the Casa de España. Are you here tonight? I know Ana is here. Hi. She's taking pictures for us. Thank you very much. We work very closely with the Casa de España, and also, you wouldn't be able to hear me tonight was it not for the Institute of Hispanic Culture, who very graciously lent us the speaker system. We have a number of people here tonight from the Institute, certainly Dorothy Karam, who has been a president of the Institute, and Dr. Yes, you're here tonight too, thank you, and of course, Yolanda Velasquez. There we go. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us and for supporting our efforts. We appreciate your help. Also, we're very closely aligned with the Daughters of the American Revolution, who have started a Spanish task force to help people who are Hispanic and have ancestors that possibly fought with Bernardo de Gálvez or gave a donation to support the cause of the American Revolution, and to bring more Hispanic Americans into the daughters and the sons of the American Revolution. But the task force is with the DAR. And I'd like to introduce Mary Anthony Starts, who is the head of the Spanish task force for DAR. And also Tom Jackson, who is here in uniform, and he is the Texas president of the Sons of the American Revolution. And by the way, within the last month, Tom has become a Granadero, and I had the privilege of inducting him into our order. So congratulations. We have another Granadero who is also part of the Sons of the American Revolution, and he is working to raise money to build a monument to Bernardo de Gálvez across the street from the Pleasure Pier in Galveston, Texas, and that is Bill Adrians. Bill was at the table outside. Are you here in the room?
He's still at the table.
Oh, he's still at the table. See, tireless work. Okay, I appreciate it. And then I need to send out a special thanks to BBVA Compass, Andres Carranza, who has helped to underwrite the event tonight. And I want to remind you that part of that underwriting, since we borrowed the microphone, is the fantastic reception that we're going to have. There will be very delicious and wonderful paella, so I encourage you not to escape once we're done. And not only that, there's lots of delicious Spanish red wine that has been donated by Imanol Pagasa, who is the son of one of our Damas, Beita Pagasa, and we greatly appreciate all your help and the support of Pagasa and Sons for our Also, there will be delicious desserts by Reina Meals, and I would encourage you to not only indulge in the paella and the wine, but stick around for dessert as well, okay? All right, now, just a couple more items of housekeeping, and then we'll be able to move on very quickly. Yes, ma'am?
We also have a representative from the Consul General of Mexico.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Please tell me your name. Flavia Velasco. Okay. Muchísimas gracias por haber venido esta noche y les agradezco por todo su apoyo a nuestra organización. Okay. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for your support to our organization. And you were right here on my list right after the Consul General of Spain, and I can't believe I skipped right by it. So thank you. Thank you for being so gracious. Gracias, Okay, very quickly, let me mention, I've told you about the reception. I would like to say a couple of quick things. One, at the end of the event tonight, the author will be signing books right outside here in the lobby, and you'll all be enjoying the reception. And then at a certain point, we're going to want to stand on the steps outside so that we can take a picture of Paco Reyero surrounded by all of you who attended the book presentation tonight, okay? In addition, I would like to call your attention to the fact that out on the table there are these little pieces of paper. It's an information card, and if any of you are interested in joining the Granaderos y Damas de Galvez, please fill one out and give it to me or to one of the ladies at the table, and we will contact you. We'd love to be able to invite you to some of our meetings and other events, okay? And finally, and without any further delay, I would like to mention that Paco Reyero has told me that he is very much interested in preparing a bilingual edition of his book, and we're very much open to having someone underwrite that for us. So if you love this book and you love what you hear tonight and you would like to help us create a version that is in both Spanish and English, which would be not only an interesting book to read, but also an excellent teaching tool for somebody like me who listens to the movie in Spanish, but always with closed captions in English. Maybe it's cheating, but at least I get the phonetics all right, okay? But I would appreciate that too. So let me know or put it on the information card if you can. And finally, by the power invested in me as the governor of the Houston Granaderos y Damas de Galvez, I hereby present the book, and Washington, and Galvez conquered Washington. And now to make it, so there you go. The book presentation is complete, and now I will turn it over to our illustrious author and our interviewer, Professor Caroline Krinn, Professor Emeritus of History from Sam Houston State University, so that they can tell you all the details. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, no, okay, Caroline. Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. For me, it's a pleasure. And muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros. Creo que el micro no funciona demasiado bien, pero lo voy a intentar. La verdad es que para mí es un placer estar con tantos amigos y tanta gente que me ha prestado su ayuda. Ha dicho John, y efectivamente es así, que los periodistas suelen ser bastante pesados, son molestos los periodistas, pero no llegan a ser nocivos. Eso es importante, quiero decir, son bastante insistentes y al final, si uno tiene cierto decoro profesional o punto honor, puede alcanzar su objetivo. En el caso de la publicación de un libro, pues siempre es un parto doloroso, pero acaba siendo una suerte de muesca en el fusil y ayuda a tener ciertas vivencias. Para mí, escribir Bernardo de Gálvez entró en Washington, que una amiga lo ha traducido como "And Bernardo de Gálvez entered in Washington D.C." Ha sido un esfuerzo personal, pero particularmente gratificante por la cantidad de buenas respuestas que me he encontrado al uno y al otro lado del Atlántico. La gente cómo ha estado trabajando para que este libro, que no es solo una obra personal de alguien que tiene el interés en sacar adelante viejas historias que, como bien se sabe, conociendo el pasado explicamos el presente, está tan apoyado por gente que no ha tenido un interés económico en la causa ni un interés en su propia reputación, sino en simplemente hacer ver que las cosas que nos unen o que nos mantienen en buena sintonía son importantes recordarlas. Creo que vamos a charlar en inglés, yo lo voy a intentar y estoy a tu servicio.
How many of you understand Spanish? All right. Is there anyone who does not understand Spanish? Okay, we do have a few.
So we are going to talk in English. We are going to talk in English, obviously. But as say Ana from Casa de España, she told me that it's very difficult to seem intelligent in a language that is not yours. So I'm not very intelligent, so in English I'm half intelligent or less than a half intelligent.
This is a wonderful opportunity, I think, for all of us to be here with our esteemed author. Francisco Reyero is a man who is a journalist, has been a journalist for 22 years. He is famous in Spain in many of the different television, radio, and film opportunities. He is also, among his recent works, now this gives you an idea of the breadth of his abilities. He was born in Sevilla in 1971, but he spent the last 22 years working in radio, press, and television. He is a well-known fixture in programs such as Herrera de la Onda, Más de Uno with Carlos Alsina, and Espejo Público with Susana Griso. He most enjoys actually spending time with his family and writing and researching. Among his recent works, Sinatra, I Will Never Return to This Country in 2015, Eastwood, Desde que mi nombre me defiende, and, surprisingly enough, Trump, the Lion of the Circus in 2016. He hit the nail on the head, so he did a good job.
Yeah.
He does hold degrees in economics and business from the University of Sevilla, a master's in radio by the Pontifical University of Salamanca, and courses in journalism with SEK of Segura. Currently, he is working as the correspondent, is this right, for RNI?
Mm-hmm.
And he collaborates with Canal Sur for radio and television, as well as writing in many different formats. So this is a well-rounded journalist. This is an amazing young man.
Thank you very much, Caroline.
Now, the first thing I want to know is how on earth you found out about Bernardo de Gálvez, because not many people know who he was.
Well, especially in Malaga, where he's from, Bernardo de Gálvez, from Macharabiaya, this tiny tiny village outside Malaga in La Sarquia. The legend of Bernardo de Gálvez was not very, even in the province of Malaga, in the south of Spain, was not very popular, but was about different, episode that was able that Bernardo de Gálvez came again to life. One important thing is that in the mid-70s, when the bicentennial of Declaration of Independence here in the United States was coming, 1976, a very peculiar, a very intelligent man called Eric Martel was appointed like a consul here in Houston. And so he wanted to come to Washington to take the credential, I think so, to be the consul here in Houston. But he didn't want to come by plane. He wanted to come in the ship. And then he had more time to read and to know about what kind of destiny, what kind of task he's going to do here in Houston. And then he started to read in the sea, in the Atlantic, a lot of different books. And he discovered Bernardo de Gálvez. And then when he discovered Bernardo de Gálvez, he came to Washington and they said, well, I would like to found Orden de Granaderos de Galvez, because he's so important man that I need to found the Orden. He talked with different persons in San Antonio and in different places, so he founded the Orden de Granaderos and Orden de Granaderos y Damas de Galvez. And he started to think about Galveston. And then he asked for an appointment with the mayor of Galveston. And then Eric Martel went to Galveston and went to Galveston. Bernardo de Gálvez Mr. Martel went to Galveston to know about Bernardo de Gálvez and the name of Galveston, and asked the mayor and say, dear mayor, you can explain me what is the origin of Galveston? And the mayor said, yeah, it's a very famous hotel here, Hotel Galvez. So, and then Eric Martel asked again, well, nonchalantly, and then say, but you can explain me who was this Galvez who honored the hotel? And the mayor said, yeah, he was a pirate, a French pirate that was here. So Martel recently has founded Granaderos and Damas de Galvez, and he was to talk to mayor of Galveston, and even the mayor of Galveston didn't know who was Galvez, and in his opinion was, well, a French pirate. So Eric Martel said to himself, well, I have a very hard work to do here. So after 40 years of that day has been happening a lot of things, and different persons like Teresa Valcárcel, I think we are going to talk about that, and Manuel Olmedo, have been very involved in the cause of how to be again in a true light the figure of Bernardo de Gálvez, because in 1935 John Walton Covey wrote the first biography of Bernardo de Gálvez. It's Bernardo de Gálvez in Louisiana, and then it was a review of the book in the Los Angeles Times, and then the people who signed the review say, well, this book is not important only because talk about a forgotten hero that was fundamental for the American Revolution and Washington won the war. It's because you can know about the forgotten backdrop of Mississippi, Louisiana, and all the area that was under the government of Spain in that days. So I think you have both fundamental questions. It's not only Bernardo de Gálvez, of course he is the main part of the book, but it's all that forgotten age and this period that probably we need to know better.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think is so surprising to all of us who are, and you all wouldn't be here if you weren't Bernardo de Gálvez fans. Why in 2014 was there this sudden urge to honor a man who was basically unknown? And to many people still, when you talk to people about Bernardo de Gálvez, still today, there are very few who know what he did. But why in 2014? What happened?
Well, the news story started really in 2010 because it's a very insistent historian, Manuel Olmedo Checa, you know, because he's your friend, your very close friend. And then he discovered in the Indian archives in Seville a document that, well, the government of the United States is committed to hang on a portrait of Bernardo de Gálvez in, literally say, in the house of the president, in the first, the first note. And then in that day, 1783, Oliver Polo, who was the representative in Louisiana of the government of the United States, well, the Congress of the United States, say, well, Bernardo de Gálvez and he was very, very close friend, and then he wanted to honor Bernardo de Gálvez with a portrait of Galvez because of his effort during all the American Revolution. As everybody knows here, Bernardo de Gálvez can seizure all the Mississippi River with the different battle and this long march that can be possible because of his astute and how he was even before the decision of the King of Spain. And then, well, Manuel Olmedo published this compromise because this compromise never happened at the end of the 18th century. Galvez died in 1786, and when he published that, for me, very surprising note about an unknown hero like Galvez, in 2010, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. Something that say Americo Castro, the truth is very important. To show the truth, to tell the truth is more important. So nothing happened, and 3 years later, in 2013, a local Spanish newspaper called Sur from Malaga published the same. It's a portrait of Bernardo de Gálvez that the Congress of the United States should be hanged on in the Congress. And then this news is very, very small news in the newspaper, is heard by Teresa Valcárcel. And who is Teresa Valcárcel? Teresa Valcárcel is it's a woman from Galicia, from El Ferrol, in the northwest of the peninsula in Spain, and she was married to an American citizen, and she was living then in Washington, D.C. And well, her mother told her, well, it's a new here in Spain that a portrait should be hanged in the Senate. Well, then she heard the news and they said, that is impossible. Americans are very serious person, a very committed person, and this portrait is gonna be hanged in some place, in some public space, I'm unaware. So she by herself start to telephone, to call different institutions. She called Philadelphia and she said, I don't know, it says Constitutional Hall, I don't know, different places, say, well, do you know where is it the Bernardo de Gálvez portrait? And the people on the other side of the phone say, well, what are you talking about, man? Bernardo who? It's nothing here of Bernardo de Gálvez. So she started something like a personal career trying to get that the Bernardo de Gálvez portrait was in his place. And then she started this strange race, trying to speak with a congressman of Maryland, because she lives in Maryland, in Bethesda, and this congressman was called Chris Van Hollen. So Chris Van Hollen was visiting the Congress, and she saw Chris Van Hollen, and suddenly she approached to Van Hollen and said, "Hey man, how are you? Nice to meet you." Congressman say, "Hey, nice to meet you too. Well, we have a problem because we have a promise, and there is a promise, 31 years old promise that we made, and we didn't did yet." So the congressman said, "What are you talking about?" And then she started to move and implies Congress, the Senate, a president of Spain, the King of Spain. Finally, in 2014, she could see how the portrait was, was hanged in the Senate. And about 7 days later, President Obama signed the joint resolution of Congress and Senate bestowing honorary citizen Bernardo de Gálvez. But both ways are mixing during different years. The story of Teresa Valcárcel and another story that Maria Anthony started know about that a lot, because her sister Molly was very involved in this another cause. Her sister she's married to a Spanish man, and she met together in 1981 because Maria Anthony's sister was named Queen in Pensacola of the Fiesta of Pensacola, and then she fell in love with this Spanish man, and then she moved to Spain, and she started to to move all the cause of Bernardo de Gálvez and the necessity that he was named honorary citizen. And then since the about 2007, this another way about the honorary citizenship started to move, and in some point both are crossing together and helping to arrive to the goal in the same moment. So it's a very amazing story, because for years and years Bernardo de Gálvez has been forgotten, but suddenly both goals were made, and now Jon has been talking about the different things that are happening now. The opera. Guillermo Fesser is now teaching in different schools about his book. Now Bernardo de Gálvez is a comic about the story of Teresa Valcárcel, and today Teresa Valcárcel has told me that a girl of 13-year-old from Miami has written her that she is her hero, because it's something like Bernardo de Gálvez is standing in the school, and I think it's very important to explain that kind of stories.
I think one of the things that is, as you found out, is that Teresa Valcarce is a very quiet, very shy, well, at least she started out being very shy, but she is nothing, she was a secretary. She was just a secretary for the Education Commission in DC, in Maryland. And in this case, this is what your book is all about, is the quiet, simple background people that don't make a great name for themselves, who do it just because they love the idea of Bernardo de Gálvez, and certainly Manuel Olmedo Checa, our beloved Manolo. These are people who are not famous, who are not great, powerful people.
You know, I think it was Carlyle who said that, you know, like kidney or lungs are made of small kidneys or small legs, and the countries are the same. They are made of small citizens, and all are, you know, need to be the same quality. Teresa Valcarce is when she went to meet with a political advisor of Senate, Bob Menendez, who was, you know, the boss of foreign affairs in the Senate, and she was with Monica Barrera, was the person, and then she, you know, all the department was asking Teresa, what do you want to do? What do you want to? Why are you here? And then finally, she got a meeting with this political advisor, and then she writes something like a talking points to express herself to the political advisor, and then she asked, are you representing some organization, some kind of lobby? Are you? And Teresa said, well, no, just me. And then, just me. And so only you. And then you mix up all the, you know, ambassador and all the, you know, big staff of a country, and finally the former president, Mariano Rajoy, said, well, you are doing by yourself, and I am here to support you. It's a very, you know, very happy story and very necessary story.
And I think probably another thing that you have found as you have gone around the country, what areas have you found that other people are also working on Bernardo de Gálvez?
Well, I'm very surprised because, you know, Caroline, when I was driving all the Gulf Coast and with my Mini, because a friend of mine lent me a Mini, and I was with my Mini surrounded by big trucks, trying to, you know, well, I'm from Spain, I'm not so accustomed to this. I'm always telling Luis Alfonso, I'm very happy to come back to your house because I'm safe here. I don't want to be in the highway every time. So when you are doing all the road from Houston to Pensacola and stop at different places, and you see the different, you know, I don't know how you say manglares in English, but manglares, you say all this vegetation with the and you thought about Bernardo de Gálvez and the march. And for me, in a Mini Cooper, it's a very difficult task, and to go there to Pensacola. And I thought about Bernardo de Gálvez and all these multicultural troops trying to be forward and to take place by place, Fort Butte, Natchez, Manchac, every place, and was so amazing. Then I was first in Washington making different research, and after that I went to Houston, and then I went to different places in Gulf Coast, and I was talking with Manolo Olmedo. Manolo Olmedo was the investigator that found this very important piece of the story with the committee of the Congress say, well, we are going to hang a portrait. And when I was, well, Manolo, I'm here in Washington, you know, well, come, keep going. Well, Manolo, I'm here in Philadelphia, keep going. I'm in the Revolutionary Museum, Philadelphia. Well, okay, well, I'm here in Pensacola. Well, and say, one time he said, well, you are now in New Orleans. Yes, I'm New Orleans. He said, why you don't go to Mexico? because Bernardo de Gálvez died in Mexico. I said, Manolo, you are crazy. I'm crazy, but you are more crazy than me.
Manolo is a delightful gentleman. Again, someone who does not presume, he has no famous connections with anyone, but once he gets you, as he has gotten all of us, he was the one that got hold of Teresa Valcarce, he was the one that got hold of you. He is a very, very quiet man, but he is the one who is the linchpin that has continued to spread this idea. And certainly, as you've been traveling around and seeing all these things, what has surprised you the most about what you have seen and the people that you've met?
Well, it's the best thing that be a journalist is the people that you can know, and it's better to write the book than to see it published, because in the process, I think in my personal opinion, is when you are enjoying the most. But this story has some kind of similarities with L'Enfant's story. You know, then L'Enfant, when he was the architect of Washington, D.C., and he was very inspired from the French influence, and then, well, at the end, he had some kind of problems with, I think it's Jefferson, where he different art with, then he is out of the work, and then he died. He died alone and poor. And in the beginning of the 20th century, can I remember it, the Roosevelt and the French ambassador usually play tennis, and then the French ambassador say, well, what about L'Enfant? L'Enfant was the architecture, the first architect of Washington, D.C. So they started to remove the different papers, and the Congress said, well, L'Enfant was right. The city should be like L'Enfant thought about it. And then they started to redesign the mall and all the different places that are so beautiful in Washington, D.C. But not, they wanted to do more, and then they unearthed L'Enfant, and you know, L'Enfant was lying in the state under the rotunda of Capitol. And then for me it's something very similar, because Bernardo de Gálvez is in some way unearthed and put again in a new light.
Why do you think it took so long? I mean, it's been 230 some years, and yet Bernardo de Gálvez was well known at the time.
Well, Bernardo de Gálvez died in 1786, only 40 years old. Some kind of intrigas in the court with his powerful uncle Jose, that was the real man there. And I think it's, in that moment, it's a decima, a poem. I don't know in English, I can try it in Spanish. It's Los Galvez se deshicieron como la sal en el agua, como chispas de fragua, fósforos desaparecieron. Bajaron como subieron, a modo de exhalación. Dios conceda el perdón, sin que olvidemos de paso que este mundo da cañazo al que concede admiración. So, when he was, when he died in Mexico, some kind of, some kind of spell is over him.
But as far as the United States, why has he been, well, not just in the United States, because Manolo says that even in Malaga, he is not well known.
No, he's not popular. He's not popular.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because even when now I've been publishing different, articles in El Mundo, the world, people has been asking me, well, what's about why are you been writing about Bernardo de Gálvez? So I think it's a very, well, for me,
It's because Manolo got you.
yes, well, but you know, Manolo and the profession.
That's what journalists do.
Yes,
Is chase the unknown story.
Obviously, but you know, roll call. The newspaper say 2014 is a very good year for Bernardo de Gálvez. At least better than the last couple of centuries. It's very bad. So he was right. It's the same.
And as far as becoming an honorary citizen, how did that come about?
Well, I insist, Mary Anthony knows about that because, you know, a congressman called Jeff Miller, a Republican from Florida, started the cause about 2012 after the state of Florida named Bernardo de Gálvez Great Floridan of the Year. And then a very wonderful woman called Nancy A. Fetterman wrote the different argument that claims that Bernardo de Gálvez need to be bestowed like honorary citizen. And then Jeff Miller told me that he was talking with the different Congress and congressmen and senators, and he said, well, we are going to try to pass this joint resolution about the honorary citizenship of Bernardo de Gálvez. And well, he said, the other congressman said, who is this Bernardo de Gálvez? Well, if you, Miller, say that he's a good man, I trust you. So I don't know how many of them, you know, support the Bernardo de Gálvez honorary citizenship without really knowing who was Bernardo de Gálvez. But if you read here in the, you know, we say the guardas, I don't know how you say that in English, the 2 pages here, we have been, you know, writing here in English the joint resolution 2014, and at the end of the book in Spanish it's translated, because I think it's very, very important that the book starts with the joint resolution, the best success of Bernardo de Gálvez nowadays.
And I think it's important to note that in 2014, I was talking to one of my colleagues who is a political science professor, and when I told him that we were talking about trying to make this honorary citizenship for Bernardo de Gálvez, he laughed. He said, this Congress is so split and so divided in 2014 that there is no way you're going to get anything passed. And I want you to know that Teresa Valcarce and Nancy Fetterman and Manolo and the Granaderos and all of these people that you'll read about in this book, it is the simple citizens who decided that it had to be. And I want you to know that that was passed by unanimous vote of the Congress. So I think that's why this book is so critically important, is because it looks at just the citizens, and it is what power the citizens can have and do have. And that's why I think that Paco hit the nail on the head when he found this book, because this is so important to show what just us citizens can do. Mm-hmm. We can do it, and they did. Now, what other projects are going on?
Well, I would like to see the book in a bilingual edition. Well, I need to offer the book for the English reader, obviously, English spoken reader. And well, we are you know, involved in different projects in the radio there in Spain. And for me, it's a pleasure to be here. traveling is the best way to live, you know, and knowing people, and with my mini.
Well, you have met most of the people that have been involved in this book, have you not?
Yeah, because I'm very, you know, I'm very annoying. So I ask, like John said before, I call everyone and say, well, can we please have a coffee or whatever? And I say, I'm there. No? So I try to do the operation by myself, and I think it's a good way to do it. And to talk with the different, Carmen de Reparat was because I'm not an historian, and honestly I need to say that I'm a journalist, and a journalist would like to be a good writer. And then I was talking with Carmen de Reparat, because Carmen wrote the best, for me, one of the best work on Galvez, and he went to Washington to the library, Congress Library in 1986, and was making research, and her book is called Yo Solo, La Toma de Pensacola. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. But I need to talk about the person who is involved, who are involved in this another story. It's about how Galvez has been restored in the history, and how it's pushing farther than before, you know, with all the different projects, the films, the documentaries, the opera, and the wonderful livre of all of you, and the wonderful livre of Granaderos and Damas de Gálvez, and Hijas de la Revolución, daughter of American Revolution, sons of the American Revolution. And well, I think it's a wonderful. John is watching me. I don't know if he wants to say something, or you want to go to the, because this is, yes, I need to say that, González Payas is a big company, wine company from Jerez de la Frontera. So Jerez de la Frontera has an extraordinary wines. My wife is from there, and she's my general manager, you know. So she talked to me, well, if you're going to be there with so good people, you need to have Tío Pepe. So Uncle Pepe, Tío Pepe, is a very good wine. I have about 4 bottles, very cold outside, and I would like to share with all of you. So.
Great job. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking good questions, and thank you for having great answers. So we appreciate it. And above all, thank you for writing this book about our organization and people like us who have fought to foster a stronger relationship between Spain and the United States. Now, we're going to have questions and answers in just a couple of minutes, but you know, I've got to apologize to you all again, because I've really become a little bit forgetful tonight. It was such a day, let me tell you, but I've got to do a couple of things, and so mea culpa, please help me here. I want to introduce our Governor General of the Order of the Granaderos y Damas de Galvez, and his name is Fidel Santos. Governor Santos, would you please stand? Okay, thank you. And along with this, I would like to mention we have a Governor General because the Granaderos y Damas de Galvez have multiple chapters or organizations in several different cities across the United States. And we have a very, very active chapter in San Antonio. They wear the uniform frequently. They have a drum and fife corps and flags and muskets. They make a lot of noise, and everybody either goes running or comes running to find out what's going on. And then they have a chance to pass out propaganda about Bernardo de Gálvez, and they're very effective. And so they do a great job. Then in Pensacola, they had the battle, and so they're very important there. They do a lot of work and liaison work, especially with the hometown of Bernardo de Gálvez, Macharabiaya, in the Malaga province of Spain. There is a new chapter, or let's say a resurging chapter in New Orleans, where he lived as governor of Spanish Louisiana, before going on to become the Viceroy in Mexico City. So we have a large organization, and I want to invite all of you to join if you would like. You know, some people do research here in Houston. We have the wonderful professors that work with us. People have come and delivered papers and lectures here at Rice. We have the opera project that we mentioned earlier, and Paco says we're building this monument to Bernardo de Gálvez across the street from the Pleasure Pier, and also working towards sponsoring films and documentaries about the pivotal role of Spain to helping us win the revolution. So you can come and be a member, or just join us, or help us out by maybe once in a while saying something to your neighbors, or, oh, I heard of that guy Galvez, and this is what he did. But above all, you can just come and hang with us, which is what you're going to do tonight when we move into the reception and start having some of this wonderful vino tinto that was presented to us by the Pagasa family. So we welcome you to our organization, whether you want to write a book or do research or simply come and be with us and work in our relationship with the Instituto Cultural Hispano or the Casa de España or the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution or whatever it may be. But what I'm forgetting to say to you is that, you know, when I forgot to mention the Consulate of Mexico and how much I appreciate you being here tonight. Something that's so important about this is that, yes, we are working hard to foster a strong relationship with Spain and to remember about the American Revolution and all that Spain did. But Bernardo de Gálvez had raised an army of a multitude of people. Many of them were French, many were Spanish, there were freed blacks, American Indians, but a large majority of them were Mexican people who came from Mexico and fought alongside all of these Europeans, right, to win the American Revolution. This is so important because what a lot of us down here, again, and I said this earlier, on the Gulf Coast don't know, is that many of us are truly descended from people who fought with Bernardo de Gálvez, who fought in the American Revolution, and many are people of Hispanic descent. And we need to know that we were all part of the revolution. And tonight I'd like to ask if there are people in the audience who actually know that they descend from a grandfather or a great-great-great-grandfather that fought in the revolution, or who may have given a donation to win the revolution. Would you please stand so that we can acknowledge you tonight? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate that. Okay, now we're supposed to have a drawing for questions. Okay, next is questions and answers. Okay, and so I'm going to trade microphones with you. Thank you.
Okay.
And if someone will volunteer to run the mic. Does anyone have any questions for Paco Reyero or Professor Krim? I would really welcome, and we can have a lively discussion here tonight. So please jump in.
I see that he was very helpful in the revolution, but why was he, and why did he care about what did he have against the British?
Well, even before the King of Spain decided to be involved all the Spain in the American Revolutionary War, Galvez was appointed like a governor in Louisiana in 1777, and then he started to help, I don't know exactly why, all the American revolutionaries. Then he started to have a very good relationship with Oliver Power. Yes, well, he was sending supplies, and even he founded like those companies to send from Spain to Louisiana or New Orleans blankets, muskets, powder, and medicines. And a couple of years after, the King of Spain, Charles III, decided to start the war against the Britain. But before that, Galvez was involved in the help of especially the Mississippi, because he was crossing the Mississippi and expelling the British from the Mississippi before the king decided to be in the war. Because Charles III and different advisors there was thinking about the possibility to have a treatment with the British, because Spain needed to recover its independent coast to Gibraltar and
West Florida.
And Florida, yes, because Florida was at that time a British property. And Galvez was acting in advance, and we say, was very astute and can move faster than the history finally. That's what made Galvez.
Okay. You have a question?
No.
Ask one anyway.
She's helping.
Anybody? Any questions?
It is said that he also put a tax on everybody who lived in his governorship. Could you explain that too? How he got the citizens to pay into helping the colonists through a tax?
Que pidió impuestos. Pedía que pagaran impuestos para las cabezas.
Impuestos o donativos.
Obviously, yes. He was making different kind of campaigns, and in La Habana, because the general headquarters of Spain at that time was in La Habana. He argued with the different general because he wanted to be more involved in the Revolutionary War, and the other was thinking about different, position. They think about it's better to, to retain La Habana, not to expose La Habana, because it's a object of desire from the British too, because they want to have that. But Bernardo de Gálvez was even asking for money, and he paid personally from the soldier of Washington, making different campaigns, funding, looking for funding, and well, he was living only 40 years. When you think about how in only 40 years can do so many things, you are more surprised.
More questions? We have one back here. Okay.
I just want to add two comments. First of all, to answer the question about the British, what did Galvez have against the British? During the French and Indian War, the Spanish, because they sided with the French, lost West Florida, and the Spanish wanted it back, slowly but surely. But also, to Dorothy's comment about the tax, the King of Spain, Carlos III, issued a decree in 1781 requesting aid to help raise money for the war effort against the British. So that is the donativo. The donativos were collected in all of Nueva España. And we have found the donativos from Mexico City down to Yucatan, and many of them have been indexed and are searchable on the DAR website. But we still have several thousand more to find and to index. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. More questions? Any more from the audience? Okay, I'm getting the word. No more questions.
I would like to say one small anecdote, but it's very, I think it's very funny.
Please.
Because now we are talking about the British, and in Macharavilla, the birthplace of Bernardo de Gálvez, the mayor is from Macharavilla, but the second mayor, she's British. And then she's in a very peculiar situation, because she's called Katie Elbow, and she's defending the memory of Bernardo de Gálvez. So it's fun, and she's a wonderful.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you both. Do we have Do you have a drawing now?
Yeah, several people have donated to the cause of the Granaderos and Damas de Galvez, which, as you read, it always goes to education and educating the public in our area about Bernardo de Gálvez and Spain's influence in the American Revolution. So to these people who donated $10 or more, and we have a few here, and they're 2 scarves with a Spanish theme, and then there's also going to be a bottle of wine. So your names are here. I don't know who you are. Here. I need my eyes.
Let Caroline draw, okay. And we'll help you.
Okay, Caroline. There you go. There's 3. So this is for one of these cards.
José Luis Alfonso.
Ah,
Alonso.
Alonso.
Okay, one more.
That's perfect.
Sarah Lenny. Oh.
Sarah Lenny. Okay. Is there one more, or is that it?
There's one more. It's a bottle of wine. I don't have it with me. So
okay.
I'll give it to you later.
Let's draw. All right, is everything ready? The paella, todo ya listo? We're just about ready to go. And just before we dismiss here, and I want to once again welcome you to join us with the reception, to have some of this wonderful wine that has been donated by the Pagasa family, and stay with us and take the picture. Let Paco Reyero sign your book, and stay with us and talk and just be with us for a while. Yes. Yes. It's dark outside. We'll take the picture here. And before we break for that, I would just like to ask Paco Reyero, if those of you who do not speak Spanish would bear with us for just a moment, will you just address everyone in Spanish, give them a 30-second synopsis of what we've talked about and how important Bernardo de Gálvez is in your opinion. Can you do it in 30 seconds? Hold the mic close so we can hear you. Okay. Dale, dale. Because the Spanish speakers have sat so patiently through all this English. En español.
Muchas gracias.
Rápido.
La verdad que me siento mucho más relajado hablando en español. Vuelvo a ser yo. Hasta ahora no era yo. Hasta ahora era otra persona. Sabes que las personas cambian cuando hablan en español o cuando hablan en su idioma y cuando hablan en otro idioma. Somos personas distintas. Pero la verdad es que para mí el descubrimiento de Bernardo de Gálvez, Carmen de Reparat, no dice que haya que redescubrir, porque no es como algo que se abandona en una especie de, no sé, olvido, sino que la figura siempre ha estado ahí. Lo que sí me parece relevante es que podemos utilizar legítimamente el pasado para poder explicar el presente, y por tanto esas figuras que son heroicas y que verdaderamente acercan un poco al concepto de la divinidad, en tanto que están en un estadio intermedio entre el ser humano, vamos a decir, convencional, y aquello que representa sus más altos ideales, puedan servir de referencia. Quiero decir, el pundonor, el honor, la voluntad, las ganas de hacer el bien, el deseo de la convivencia, todos esos valores que hacen que la tierra merezca ser un lugar para ser vivido y compartido por todos nosotros. Eso es un poco el legado que creo que ha dejado Bernardo de Gálvez. Muchas gracias a todos. Tomamos una copita de...
Thank you for being here tonight. Come up so we can take your picture. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.
¿Dónde vas? Let's go up front and get the photo.
Hi, if you're going to do the photograph, which we would love to, has to be here. It's too dark outside, so if you could come over, we'd really appreciate it. It's right there. All So we can get to the paella and to the snack. Thank you. Right, sit down. Yeah. Yeah.
La luz ahora.
It's